I do now want to move on to Israel. You voted no on the Israel only aid bill, citing criticisms of Netanyahu's government and Ben Gvir's call, quote, for the mass expulsion of Palestinians as well as humanitarian concerns. And you said this on the House floor, quote, I will vote no because it is painfully obvious to the entire world that what is needed today is a permanent ceasefire and a release of all hostages. So I do want you to break down the statement for us because, as we know, Hamas is refusing to release the hostages, and as of now, Netanyahu has refused to stop the campaign until the hostages are released. So how would this work?
Well, I think we need to look at Will Burns' leadership in Qatar and have an agreement that you have the release of all hostages and a ceasefire, and that is what the United States should state. I think if the president says that he wants the release of all hostages from Hamas and he wants a permanent ceasefire, that Will Burns will be able to execute that.
And how do we get to those negotiations? Because there have been temporary ceasefires, some hostages released. So how do you get to that goal?
Well, the first is for the president to make it clear that that's what he wants. I mean, I think the American president is the most powerful person in the world. And when he says something in a decisive way, it usually can happen. I mean, that's what happened when Reagan told Menachem Begin to stop the war in Lebanon. Within hours, he stopped. And when President Biden told Bibi to stop the war in Gaza about 2 years ago, and that the runway was up, he stopped. I believe if the president comes out very clearly and says to Hamas, release all the hostages, and we are for a permanent ceasefire, that Will Burns and Secretary Blinken, who I have tremendous respect for, will get it done.
President Biden did call Israel's action in Gaza, quote, over the top. But I'm curious what you think an appropriate response to October 7th would look like.
I think it would look like Israel getting the Hamas perpetrators, but doing it surgically and doing it in a way after the attacks, for example, of the Munich athletes, how Israel got every single person responsible. But it took many, many years to do that. And I have always supported Israel's right to get the Hamas perpetrators. But that doesn't mean that you have Ben Gvir calling for the full expulsion of the Palestinian people, who's sitting in the Israeli war cabinet as their national security minister.
Do you think that Israel should pull out of Gaza now, even if Hamas remains in power?
I believe that we need to have a release of all the hostages by Hamas and a permanent ceasefire. And then I believe the United States should lead the efforts for two states living side by side. And I think I've called Hamas a terrorist organization. I don't think that Hamas should be part of that governing body, but I think that the United States should lead a two-state solution.